I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker, the lovely Stephanie Michele. So, Stephanie is a relational nutritionist. She promotes relational wellness as a means for authentic happiness by helping people see and experience the difference between fast food relating and feel good relating. She facilitates regular public shared experience events where people can experience an inspired sense of connection and hosts a YouTube show called Relatable. Stephanie will be speaking on authentic connection in the modern digital world. This is a relator's guide for making choices and loving your life. Take it away, Stephanie.
Hi, thanks, Julia. Hello, students at Westridge and guests. I want you to imagine something with me for a second. Imagine you're standing in the middle of a pool that you're trying to clean while it's rapidly filling with water. At what point do you jump out and go, I can't do this, until the water stops flowing in? Well, that's kind of how I'm feeling about my talk today because of the endless amounts of information that are flowing into my system at all times. I want to inspire you and I want to leave you in a better place, but I have to acknowledge what's in the way. In my case, that water is in endless amounts of bad behavior that I see through social media and trending news stories. And I define bad behavior as anything that's not allowing us to be well with each other. So violence, bullying, rudeness, sharing harmful misinformation, or things just meant to cause anxiety and have zero purpose outside of that. I wish it was easy for me to turn these things out, but it's just not. Because as long as I can remember, I've been tracking social behavior, in particular how we relate and speak to each other. I remember being about age 10 and hiding behind the Christmas tree with this Ewok stuffed animal and eavesdropping on my parents fighting. And as they called each other names and argued, I could kind of hear where they agreed in the middle of the conversation. I was like, gosh, there just has to be a better way of speaking to each other than this. I still look through life through that lens. I see so many opportunities for people to do better with each other and interact in a way that's mutually beneficial. And I get frustrated and heartbroken when that doesn't happen. And I'm starting to see how it's affecting my friends as well. So during this time of isolation due to COVID-19, the cure for the flooding, the people that are in my life, they're just harder to reach. So I have actually been spending more time online and my screen time has definitely increased. Do you know that our brains are actually designed to hold 5 times more negative information than positive? Now, this is not by default. There's no accident to this. This information recall is essential to our survival. So we know not to walk out into incoming traffic or remember not to touch a stove when it's on. But when we overstimulate this part of the brain with too much negative consumption, we can easily lose track of what's important and what we actually need to survive. I believe this flood of consumption is something that many people are struggling with right now. And I would argue long before we were put into physical social isolation due to COVID and to prevent spreading and transmitting the disease, we were already participating in social distancing due to the distractions, online distractions, and the just endless amounts of content consumption. We're basically creating a situation where we have less mind space and time available for each other to connect offline. And this connection, this offline connection, it's essential to our human wellness. In this age of attention economy, when online brands and networks are competing for our attention, we really need to work harder to protect the vitality we get through relationships offline. Now, online patterns have a way of flowing into offline patterns. And this is why I believe that we've reached this point in human evolution where we have to practice relating with each other in the same amount of time dedication that we give our bodies at the gym through physical exercise. The people that were interviewed in the Netflix film, The Social Dilemma, agree and think that we are facing a climate change of culture right now that needs some attention. And I totally agree with that. In a follow-up Q&A, Tim Kendall, from a former executive at Facebook, talked about being in a room with people social tech executives that were actively pursuing adjustments to algorithms that would take more time away from what they consider to be their two biggest competitors. Now wait for this, it's not another social network. What they consider their two biggest competitors are their users' sleep and relationships. So that means that us thriving and being in loving relationships with each other is an actual threat to their business model. And when you think about the size of these networks and the power that they have, what do you think's winning more right now? Us being able to connect and love on each other, or them helping us develop really bad habits that take us away from each other more and more? Now, I'm not saying that all participation on these networks is bad. I'm just saying that they are actively trying to hijack our sleep, our time, our relationships, and attention. This is how they make money. They don't care that we're addicted to scrolling, and they certainly don't care that what's happening through the vicious cycle of validation through posting and waiting for likes, like how that's affecting how we see ourselves, each other, while simultaneously decreasing the desire to make any time to connect offline. Every time we exchange information in a digital format that's instantaneous, without context, we are participating in social distancing. Now, this kind of information, I include things like memes and gossip and unsolicited advice, in a digital format. These are all forms of social distancing because there's no context there. I often call them fast food relating, actually, because it's like things that we can just fill up. They give us no nutrients to our soul, and we leave us hungry and going back for more. This is why these networks are so addictive. They trick our brains to believing that they are the source for dopamine, the chemical that's released when we feel pleasure. And they leave us with no energy to really seek out true sources of pleasure. Life is non-binary. It's not about right or wrong or left or right. We need nuance and context and exploration to grow. We just can't get that through digital interaction. And what happens is we kind of develop habits of quick judgment, and then they become a pattern of judging all the time, which builds patterns of lovelessness in our own life. I know that right now we are sharing time and space with people that want to see our country, the United States, go through a civil war. And I don't say that to scare anybody. I just say that to remind you that the opposite of division and hate is love and connection. And it may seem like a really hard time to focus on anything else but just what's in front of you right now. But I really believe we need to focus on how we're protecting our relationships and our relationships with the communities that we live and participate in. I also believe that at any given moment, that love is the most radical thing that you can do, and that we can shift culture with the simplest of acts, choosing to love more and fear less, choosing to slow down judgment and speed up curiosity, choosing to relate rather than hating. I titled my talk today, A Relator's Guide to Making Choices and Loving Your Life, because I wanted to emphasize the importance of being a relator. Obviously, the word relator means to relate. The word is so rarely used that spell check will assume you mean realtor. I think there's a real problem with that. I think you need to use the word relator more, and we need to call people into action that are skilled in the art of relating. People that are empathetic, that embrace learning, and that understand that our relationships with each other and our planet are under attack right now, and we need some effort to bring us back into community. Now, I'm going to share the 6 principles that I use to guide my life as a relator. And I identify as a relator, and I want you to know that I hold that identity very sacred, because every time I've slowed down judgment long enough to relate in a very curious way, I've enhanced my human experience. So these principles are really important to me, but I'll tell you, principles alone will not change your life. Practices will. So you ready? So the first one, relator principle number 1, is choose connection over consumption. So whenever you have time on your hands, lean towards nature, trees, and stories, as opposed to Amazon and Instagram, or whatever network is your poison. Mine happens to be Instagram. It's really impossible not to feel connected to something when you're outside. If you're, outside, taking a walk or playing with your dog or planting something and watch it grow. And if you can involve another person in this process, even better. Now, equally as rewarding as activities in nature is evoking the stories of your life. Calling a relative and asking them to tell you a story about your great-grandmother or your own parent. Exchanging stories with friends. Asking people, when's the last time you felt excited or loved or scared? Human interest stories are how we grow and learn. It's what we learn about what makes us unique and how we're connected to each other. And this is, again, is just a vital exchange of energy that keeps us in relationships with others. The second relator principle is avoid word comas. And what I mean by that is, have you ever caught yourself saying somebody else's catchphrase or repeating information you have no idea where it came from? Invest time in learning new ways to say things, especially things that are important to you. And if you find yourself in a conversation and it's just not moving forward, it just feels like it's looping and you're just repeating yourself, what's happening there is the receiver is not getting what you're saying. So you need to find a way to say what you want to say in a way that provokes feedback and interaction. Third one happens to be one of my favorite ones. Ask more why questions, like a 4-year-old, that much, more why questions. What I mean here is, you're going to meet people throughout life that they know what you do and they think they know what you're about. The people that know why, the why behind what you do, you're going to naturally feel closer to them. So in order to get to that, we just have to exchange more why information. Number 4, be a time enigma. So your relationship with time is going to affect your relationships with people. And throughout life, you're going to have to speed up and slow down, and only you are going to know when. It's about, making sure that that you know your own patterns and you know your body, and you are not keeping yourself in a situation where you have to go all the time. We actually need rest and meditation. So just have a relationship with time that allows you to be the best person that you can be, and never, ever, ever compare how you're relating with time to somebody else's relationship with time. Number 5, aim for the highest possible spiritual connection. I believe that there is spiritual energy available to us at all times. It has nothing to do with religious affiliation, or you really don't even have to have a faith in God to experience this. You can have experiences with this special energy by participating in the nuances of love, regularly expressing you love someone, your friends and family, yourself, your dog, whatever works. You can also experience this by developing a habit of asking and answering this question. What do I love about this? You can ask that question even when you enter a new space in your mind or a physical environment. Now that question, you'll adjust the filter with that. You'll zoom in and zoom out with that question throughout life. And I'll give you an example of that. So when I was in high school, I wanted to be a fashion designer. So I spent 2 years in fashion design school, where I realized I didn't have the patience for sewing. And after meeting people in the industry, I was like, I don't think this is right for me. When I backed out, when I zoomed out and I tried to figure out, well, what attracted me to fashion in the first place, I realized it was a love for being around people that can express with love what they love. Whether that be through some sort of artistic expression or just using their words. So I chose a career in marketing, which was a better place for me because I meet people all the time that are passionate about different things. Life is not about just loving what you do. It's definitely about loving who you're doing it with. And last principle, relator principle number 6, know your relator role. Now there's 3 of them. They are mentor, supporter, and challenger. I'm sure right now a lot of you are being encouraged to figure out what your life purpose is. And I guarantee that gets a lot easier if you identify and value the mentors, supporters, and challenges in your life. And also develop a habit of knowing when to be one of those and when to seek out one of those. Understanding who these people are, and to be clear, these are people that you have interaction with that's outside of any digital format. And I'm including texting in that. So it's people that you're sharing interactive influence with, not a person that calls themselves an influencer that doesn't know your specific hopes, dreams, and fears. And, these principles, with these principles, I can't do much to slow down the flood of bad behavior, but certainly these principles help me from drowning in it. I don't want you to drown either. So grab your arm floaties, your life jacket, your pool noodles, and join me. Define what it means to you to be a relator, and then go do what you need to do. Do it for your friends, do it for your family, and do it for the industries that you serve in. Be the relator the world needs right now to bring us back in celebrated interdependence. I really believe that relators are superheroes, but that doesn't mean that I want to be your hero. I'm just living, waiting for the day that you become mine. I leave you with this blessing that I say over my life and the people that I love. May your life be filled with feel-good relating and interactions with other people that energize you with love and purpose.
Stephanie, thank you so much.